very unusual. So I'm very excited. I'm very happy because look at this.
Little rosé. Since we're in the beginning of the springtime here, we figured why not?
Yeah, we just need the weather to actually turn for us. So
well, it'll turn in your glass first. And
nice. I'm happy about that.
Starts there.
No problem with that. So Chef Wagner and I have known each other for more years than I care to count. And I'll give you just a hint, but going back to the days of the Westin.
That's right.
And the Agora, right?
Back in the Agora, back in mid-90s, 1995, 96.
Yeah. You came there right out of college, right?
Yeah, so I actually started working there while I was in college. I'd just come back from a foreign exchange in Ireland, and when I was in Ireland, I got the pleasure and terrifying experience to work under a Michelin star chef in a hotel with a fine dining restaurant, and it was the first time I had ever really experienced that sort of dining, in Ireland, yeah. And he was a Belgian chef. His name was Bruno Schmidt. I'll never forget it. And there was an Irish chef, executive chef named Michael Riley, and I got to work for these guys in their respective restaurants, and it was the first time I had ever been in that level of hospitality and cuisine and cooking, and it scared the hell out of me.
Wow.
But it was exciting, and the attention, the level
you were like,
of
what,
detail.
Junior, senior?
I think it was 19. I was
wow.
19. Yeah, it was 96, I believe.
And it's very interesting to me because I hear about people that have done these exchanges or gone on to study in different areas and such. And I've had Brian Kingsford in, Kate Richards, and Italy. You hear all about Italy, which I'm in love with, but I hear everybody going to Italy. Ireland, I never would have heard of. I never would have thought about it from that perspective, going to study there.
Yeah, it was sort of a last-minute decision between France and Ireland, and I have, generations back, I have family from there, and I had always wanted to go there, and I really wanted to go to France as well, but just something pulled me towards Ireland, so I went there.
And that's amazing. I'm getting texts about people asking me about, I got to ask you more questions about your menu when it's changing, so we'll get into that.
Yeah, of course, yeah, let's do it.
So, cheers, first of all.
Yeah, cheers.
Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Just classic.
Kate, I'll save you a glass of this.
Maybe. It depends on how the segment goes.
So, Derek, obviously that's a great history, and there's a lot that we can reminisce on, and we probably will throughout the segment. But today, in talking about locally sourced, and we just had Chef Bowen that came in. A lot of when this started, it was the farm to table that was out there, and then the locally sourced became more of the name that was going along with it. And I was explaining to the chef that a lot when it started was people saying it, but not really kind of following through with it.
Yeah.
And I think that there was challenges of the seasonalities. I think there was challenges of the cost factor of being able to afford to go local and afford local purveyors. But truthfully, everything that I've known about you, even going back to the days of Agora, is that this has kind of been your signature.
Yeah.
It's always been your way of kind of making sure this happens and giving back to the community and being out there. And you're at more events than I can count. And seriously, I just saw last week you were at the Quahog thing that was out there. You're at a lot of things. And your mantra seems to get back on a regular basis.
Well, it's something that's important to me. Growing up in a big family, understanding, the power of gathering around a table and the power of food, and really knowing that everything I know and everything I have has come from, either intentionally or unintentionally from tutelage or from experience, and wanting to pass that on and wanting to really support my community, because I'm just so proud of where I come from, and being in Rhode Island for so long, that from a national perspective,
right.
We've been seen as like this sort of speck on a map, and where is that? Is that part of Long Island? Is it part of where is Rhode Island? Is it part of Massachusetts? And so when I thought about moving out, I just kind of thought about, what about doing it here? And these opportunities came up when I came back from my exchange.
Right.
And I got a job working for Casey Riley at the Agora.
Right, yep.
And Casey was really close with Bo's old chef as well, Bruce Tillinghast.
Yep.
So we go, Bo and
We
I
had
go
Steve
way
Davenport
back.
there.
Steve Davenport as well. And they were doing, and Casey and Bruce were doing these things where they were really trying to get in to use local farms, and it was just very hard to do back then, and it's still very difficult.
There wasn't a lot of resources.
There's a lot of challenges. There wasn't a lot of resources. There wasn't a lot of connection points between getting, knowing what's out there, and then getting it into your restaurant, getting it on your menus, how you could actually facilitate that in the day-to-day. So we've done a lot of work over the years in trying to help support that, and a lot of other like-minded chefs and farmers and consumers also, because it takes all three, all three avenues.
And I was mentioning that, is that it seems like there was call it a paradigm or a shift, is that at the beginning people were afraid, well, why don't I look at the sourced items? I can go out and get that on my own. But now, between the locals, if you will, and even more so the tourism clients, is that the tourism clients come in and they're like, oh, I want this. I can't get this anywhere else. So
it sort of takes that perspective, when I know it's an old adage to say that you don't appreciate what you have, and when it's right in front of you, and when you have all these, one of the other great things, because I don't think it's just one thing, but one of the other great things about Rhode Island and Providence is that we have such an influx of new life and new blood and whether it's students, whether it's traveling and tourism, whether it's conventions for work, whether it's arts and music and music shows, theater shows. There's a constant influx of new energy, new perspective, fresh life, fresh blood, and sometimes it takes those people coming that don't have that, people coming from the Midwest, people coming from other parts of the country or world, and they say, you have the best seafood in the world here, and then for people to be from here and be like, oh really? I didn't know that, or I heard about it, but I didn't really, I don't experience it enough.
And that's why we got to thank our friends at the CVB, because bringing in that new blood from that perspective is great.
Huge.
And then people consistently coming to stay in the city. I mean, when you and I were young, half these things weren't here. I mean, people weren't living in downtown. The Westin was one tower. We didn't have all this stuff. So it's amazing
crazy
that
to
it's
see
shifted.
how much it's changed and how much it's shifted in such a positive way. And it's certainly, it's not an easy business to be in, but and it takes a lot of heart and soul and blood, sweat, and tears to do it every day, and to do it right and well. But to do it in a city like this, where there's you've seen such growth and such an appreciation for things that are done with art and craft and soul and attention to detail, and really just an authentic touch.
And you go back to people saying, when they get here, they've experienced these things and they fall in love with it. And I have to tell you, I travel a decent amount still, and I was in New Orleans 2 weeks ago, got snowed in while I was there because I couldn't get back here. And I hate to say this, but I couldn't stand dining in New Orleans. And everybody was telling, and I've been to New Orleans many times, but I miss the food from home.
It's different.
I really do.
I
miss the food from home.
It's different, and I think, again, unless you travel, you don't really appreciate it.
I got to go to Texas in 2 weeks. I'm scared as heck, because I'm like, what am I going to eat?
Go to Austin. There's some great things going on in Austin right now.
So talking about the fact, like you just mentioned, that it is hard. I mean, and we'll get more into the menu in just a second, but what made you want to start, opening up over at Nixon Broadway? I mean, you went to an area that wasn't even really populated when you first started over there.
Yeah, it's the West Side, and it was definitely the Wild West back then. Well, again, I think it was a combination of factors. Certainly the driving points were that I had very strong ideas about food, I think, as anyone in their young 20s, just very passionate, and some of them really bold and blockheaded, and some of them just just lines in the sand were things that I just wanted to do, wanted to accomplish. And I had been doing fine dining for some time and really enjoying that level of craft and detail. But what was going on with the food and the trends, and and the accessibility of that kind of food sort of challenged me, and I thought that I wanted to try to bring that level of detail and craft and artistry and dining and attention in a more upbeat, less pretentious sort of way. Right. And I didn't have any money, so when I started, I started on really, really tight digs. We had 18 seats. I remember. It was less than maybe 450, 500 square feet.
That was including the kitchen.
And that was including the kitchen. It was 18 seats if you were cozy and comfortable, 15 if you weren't. And it just sort of formed and forged a different level of kind of realism to me, and kind of trial by fire, and sort of gave me a lot of bumps in the chin, and kind of I had to reprogram and redefine how I was able to operate in that space, and with so many hurdles and challenges of owning a small business at a young age with no capital really. We just had to get creative, and we started with breakfast and lunch because I couldn't afford the china and the glassware that I wanted to use for dinner, and I couldn't get a liquor license.
Yeah.
And then when I started looking for food and sourcing, and I was buying from a lot of the vendors that I had been buying from when I was at the Agora, because I had a really good relationship and a lot of great produce and really high quality stuff coming from out of state. But it was really hard to get the stuff that I knew was there, that I grew up in Rhode Island, like the apples and some of the seafood.
Too, right?
It wasn't that it was cost prohibitive at that point. It was that it was just not even. It wasn't even. You weren't even able to get it. Nobody sold it. Purveyors. As a chef, as a restaurant owner, you have to buy food, as from from a supplier that's licensed to distribute that stuff, that has all the right insurances and all the right
and
things in
purveyors
place.
couldn't even get themselves to that point,
and they just weren't, because we're the system that was set up in place was to have, I need the same products every day. I need to have this many SKUs filled. I have to have this many pallets of it. It needs to look exactly the same and taste exactly the same every day. And these are parameters that smaller farmers and really real-time living, like livestock and produce, just don't fit. And the flexibility wasn't there from our standpoint, because we were just so used to asking and rigid in what we needed and what we wanted.
So you kind of had to adapt to that as well.
We had to adapt, and we started to adapt and adjust, and in the early days, I'd have to go out to the farms to pick the stuff up.
You still do that sometimes.
And we still do that sometimes, of course, but there's so many more avenues now, and farmers have distribution licenses, and they're delivering their own stuff, and there's online markets. There's a lot, with texting and cell phones and emails, we've been able to really streamline the process.
But people like yourself deserve the credit for helping these people. No, seriously, to deserve this credit to help these people get that way, because if you guys hadn't taken the chances and made the determination that was the way you're going to go, they wouldn't be able to service those things. And additionally, you going from 18 seats, when I try to remember, I'd go up there for breakfast and there'd be a line down the block to try to get in for the 18 seats. But now you expanded. Not even double. It's like triple or quadruple, right?
Yeah.
And the bar, they got a great bar.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we love our beverage program.
Yeah, I'm loving the beverage program too.
We figured we'd feature that today. So, so we were renting this little space that was a diner, had been there for over 40 years, and a little old Italian gentleman named Nick owned it.
Right.
It was a late night diner. Used to eat there late at night.
I remember that. That's right.
Way back in the day,
wow,
when I was still a college student, that's how I found the diner. So I would eat there late at night. My friends and I would go in, whether it was after, working. We were all working nights in the restaurant business. There's nothing to do. You go grab a drink, but you're still wired because you're a night owl. We'd go and grab a bite to eat, sit there. We'd, just shoot the breeze with Nick. Bust his chops a little bit, and he was very funny and a great guy, and I just love him to pieces. And we used to, we started to develop the friendship, and years later, not that many years later, but 4, 5, 6 years later, when I had left Weston and was looking for my next thing to do, I had since moved into the neighborhood in the West Side, and I stumbled upon the diner and Nick, and he was ready to retire at the ripe age of 79. He was doing it by himself, 79 still, and that's where the name came from. And then I stayed there for about 4.5 years. I rented. I moved down the street now to where we're currently at, 500 Broadway, and that was a rehab as well. We moved closer to the border. Right, this is before all the really fun new. New energy and new renovations started coming in to the rest of the Broadway, and definitely before the resurgence in Olneyville, which is so amazing and incredible.
And you're still often considered seriously an extension of Federal Hill. People shift over between the two areas, even though the neighborhoods have their distinction.
It does, and I think because historically, technically, there's what you feel as what people's idea of what Federal Hill is, and they think it's just Atwell's Ave,
right?
And technically, Federal Street is right between Broadway and Atwell's, so it actually runs up the middle, and it's a hill, and so technically we're all in the same neighborhood, but the streets have certainly developed their own vibes over the years, and most people refer to Federal Hill as as Atwells Ave, even though it is our
Okay.
neighborhood, and they refer to us as either Broadway or the West
West
Side,
End,
the West End, and tomato, tomato. Both neighborhoods are my neighborhood, and we just want you to come there and experience it. We don't really, get caught up in that.
So, before we close, a couple things I want to make sure I
Yeah.
check it. So tell us some of the items that you do carry seasonality. And then my last question for you is, of course, going to be the question I'm asking every chef is, what's your favorite item that you like to cook? So
That's a tough one. That's a
I
loaded
know,
question.
I know,
You know that's a
I
loaded
know it's
question.
a tough one. Well, you can tell me seasonality-wise if you want to, but I like to know because that makes me go into the restaurant and say, I want what he likes,
It's funny, people say that sometimes. They're coming, what's good today? And I'm like, it's kind of like asking a parent what their favorite child is.
Speaking of a parent, now you've got children.
Yes,
That's
yeah.
right.
There's like this big chef boom right now with babies. Chap and Bo and I and Jake. Everybody's having babies, and Bo just had twins.
I know,
and
it's crazy.
My wife Katie is pregnant with our second, so she's due.
Congratulations.
She's due in just about a month or so.
Oh my God, that's
depending on how
awesome.
it goes. And
Seriously, congratulations.
thank you so much.
You got to catch up to me. I got 4. So.
I hope she's not listening. No.
I'll tell you later.
Yeah.
All right,
so we, everything to me, seasonality is so important, and it's something I think as I've grown as a chef that we've really honed in on. Before, like, seasonality was like this perfect. The first day of spring is when I'm going to put asparagus on the menu,
Right.
roll out the Brussels, the artichoke, lavender, and goat cheese, and everything is going to turn green and purple and lilac, and and as you get into it and under the hood, and you actually start trying to work within the seasons with the local farmer, you realize it's not a perfect, it's not a light switch. It's not a light switch.
Yeah.
Sometimes the asparagus isn't ready till the end of May. Sometimes. Depending on the frost, depending on the weather, if you're really going to do it and really work within it, it's a very imperfect system that requires a lot of
Growing my own garden, I get frustrated when things are available.
And what we've tried to do is take that kind of that frustration or that challenge and turn that into a positive thing, and just it really makes it exciting. It's like every day, every week, the menus, there's things, bits and pieces that are changing. And even though it's technically springtime, there's no spring stuff ready yet, except maybe the little greenhouse radishes, which are gorgeous, and some.
I think you had a picture up the other day.
Yeah. I love to share those pictures on Instagram, and Facebook, and Twitter, and kind of share the story. But everything that we do is seasonally minded. We have tough because it changes all the time. I would say anywhere between 70 and 90% of what we're serving in the restaurant is coming from Rhode Island. About 100, anywhere from 90 to 100% of our seafood is from Rhode Island and New England and the surrounding areas, Connecticut, Massachusetts.
Just so regional.
Yeah, once you get off the coast, I mean, let's be honest. We're spoiled here in the Northeast. You drive 40 minutes, and you're out of the state. You drive 3 hours, and you could go through 3 states.
I know, it's crazy.
So we have to be, kind of realistic about what we consider our borders, and and what's local and what's not local. That's a whole nother, sort of conversation that people can have. But I think if I can get in my car and drive there and be there within a few hours, then it's local.
I haven't adopted that Rhode Island mentality yet. That 30 minutes is long. I haven't got there yet.
So we're doing so much of the produce that we buy from, like Wishingstone Farm and Shatner's Farm, and I grew up in Smithfield, so I love to go to the orchards that I was playing around in as a kid, like Barden's Orchard, and and get the apples and all that stuff seasonally and whenever we can. Folks like Farm Fresh have really changed the game over the last 5-6 years by connecting chefs and farmers, and we've certainly done a lot through them. But we're constantly looking for new ways to add new things to what we do, because. While I'm not a zealot, and I still love coffee, I love chocolate, I love olive oil. And we love to support people throughout the world that are doing amazing things. We're not closed off to this incredible things that are going on. But we try. Like my filter that I put everything through is, if I want to serve something, is there something here in Rhode Island that I can look at, that I can serve, that I can feel proud about having, that's a really high quality or has a great story, or someone that I can help support. And that's been the kind of driving force for us. And 100% of our beef and our pork and our chicken over the last 7 years, from 100% of all of our center of the plate meats and proteins I've been from Blackbird Farm and Buffoni
Love
Farm,
Blackbird Farm.
and some of the other great farms in the state. And because I believe in that, and I want to showcase some of the incredible things that are going on here, and I think people want to see that.
Kudos to you, and thank you very much. All right, I'll save the question from the hot seat. I
Yeah,
won't make you tell me your favorite dish, but I have to
I figured
say
if I
too-
talk
Yeah,
long
you
enough,
know,
I would
I'd
just
skip that
yeah,
question.
we could just
All
skip right
all
over that.
But I have to say in closing that seriously, I've known Derek an extremely long time. I'm proud to call you a friend, and I'm proud for the things that you do for Rhode Island as a whole and the region as a whole. And I know there are a lot of people out there that thank you. So really, thank you for joining me
Cheers.
today. Really
Thank
appreciate
you, Rick.
coming
Thanks
in.
for having us
Appreciate
on.
it. Good to see you.